Hallucination and innovation and DAC. What we can learn from hallucinations and where AI will fit into the chip design flow. At DAC this year, I had the pleasure of moderating the animated chat between the Aaron Spitzer, Senior Director of ASIC and Micron, and the Abi Kopekra, Vice President and General Manager for Digital Verification Technology at CDA. The assigned topic was generative AI in design and verification, with a more provocative subtitle asking we are hallucinating or innovating. With both of them have a background in verification, I started by asking if we should invest resources and find bugs through verification or improving the development process so that the bugs do not get created in the first place. Abi expressed his view that because of the shortage of resources in the industry, designers will be expected to do an increasing amount of verification. We will basically converge them, but you cannot eliminate the need for verification. Correct by construction is an approach that many would like to see, but this is not going to completely eliminate verification. Both are going to be important and both will have a role moving forward. Alan added, we expect to see design happening in a more unified manner, generated by a machine, validated by a person. We expect that to be a core working model. He also saw that he had to be extended from physical domain into architecture and the system level. Both agreed the process has to start with a specification, which should be golden reference of the design intent. From that, a verification infrastructure should be created, but the human must stay in the loop. They also agree that they and the humans can do specification validation, and the decisions and assumptions are constantly verified by humans. AI is a productive tool. The IQ of the human and the analogy, the experience that humans bring to the table continue to significantly important, asserted Abi. The resource shortage is being helped in the software world. The ecosystem of the co-pilot isn't gonna eliminate all the software engineers in the world, said Elon. It's the other way around. Today, the co-pilots have 100 million users. In 5 years, you will probably have 1 million. People who don't know how to code software will start coding software. Because creating software is gonna be an easier process, I hope that something similar will happen to the verification engineers. They will not have to worry about running tools and debugging software something. They can delegate that to somebody else. With certain risks removed from an engineer's daily routine, they can concentrate more on innovation. I am asking each of my team members to start thinking about innovation. Alan noted. Start thinking about how they can harness not just the current ED tools and the LLMs, but building a flow that we can use in the future. It's more versatile, and there's a lot of room for each and every engineer in the world to innovate. Engineers will be forced to become creators, problem solvers. They should be defining where they want to go and what they want to build, rather than how to build it. If the intent is to allow more innovation, can AI help with that? In real innovation means doing something that is different from what you have done in the past. Does that mean that we might really rely on AI hallucinations for innovation? The panelists talked about various programs that are looking into discovery and being able to harness hallucinations. Avios talked about the diffusion models. Diffusion models purposely introduce noise in the data and reverse engineering that knowledge to see if we can correct itself and get it back to the original state. There are enough things that are being thought about to essentially address the hallucinations beyond the availability of high quality data. Hallucinations are real. It is a risk, but there are some people who are creatively using hallucinations. However, there needs to be some self correction that we are thinking about to detect these. Alan pointed out the hallucinations interfere with productivity. I am an excellence, and so there is no place for hallucinations. But hallucination might help us to get to new places. I've seen one example where a team was working on a design for a later. We asked AI come up with a new architecture from the scratch. It created an architecture the engineer could not understand, but it was working and it was better, separate to their own. Avi agreed we have to trust that in that hallucination and innovation to provide us with a thing that we never seen before and to have the trust and a verification process will eliminate the ones who were not visible hallucinations and actually promote the ones that were. As we with all good panels, the audience was filled up with questions with both of them, and many of them concentrated on the practicalities of today. What tools were available? How were they being used? What were the problems that have been found? One interesting avenue explored the notion of interactivity with AI to help the design issues, especially as part of a high-level synthesis flow. It was thought that various agents would be involved. One of them was perhaps aware of software, another part about the structure, and yet another about the power. All of those agents would be working together throughout the design flow, and with each change in iteration, the agent would be flagging any issues they found or making suggestions to the user. As we gain the confidence, the agentic flows issues such as readability of an intermediate description will become less of an issue than it was in the past. There will a transition period involving tools and the skill sets of people, as well as the infrastructure available with the companies. Alan said that it is moving very slowly in comparison to advances in AI, but it's improving. Others laminated about how important parts of an infrastructure are missing today. Simple things like the ability to import PDFs and ask questions about them. The panelists concluded the good progress is being made. Agents are working and they require a human to orchestrate them, and the relationship is likely to continue into the future. Companies have to aggressive in the adoption of this technology, or they will get behind and quickly find the only things they can create a legacy and commoditize devices, and will have to learn each and every day, said Alone. So related leadings, iteration and hallucinations. For many aspects of the flow, hallucinations from AI not really that serious because that is the work that the engineers on a Friday afternoon. The iterations and hallucination. For many aspects of the NED flow, hallucinations from AI not really that serious because that is work that the engineers on a Friday afternoon. Iterations loops have been a vital aspect of EDA flows for decades. Ever since gated delays and while delays become the comparable, it becomes necessary to define our The usually given logic tests would run would yield acceptable timing. Over the past years, this problem became worse because one decision can affect many others. The ramifications of a decision may not have been obvious to an individual tool in the flow. Learning tools seriously led to big problems, and in the case of the logic synthesis, it became almost impossible to closing timing, even with the iteration, because there was no concept of learning and the loop. This multifactor dependence was solved by closely linking decision-making tools and estimators and checkers into single tools. So the quick check can be made along with the decision to find out the likelihood that a given choice may end with a bad end result. We are seeing increasing areas with the sensory and many of them are interactive feedback loops so that users can guide the tools based on the knowledge they have. AI have a highly publicized ability to hallucinate. Many of these hallucinations are funny when not in something critical, especially when it comes to generating graphics. One of my hobbies is modern British language from around 1950. A while back, I tried to use AI to generate some backgrounds. AI fundamentally does not understand the concept of train as having two flanks wheels that run within a pair of tracks. Some of the images generated have an arbitrary number of layers. We got a highly comical when the turnouts were included. Rails were everywhere. Some ben, ben, vanishing into thin air, and some trains levitated over them. See how many See how many errors you can detect in the image below. Image graded RE3 and when asked for a British Railway junction from 1950s. The other day I was reading the communication of Acme ACM in May 2025, which had an article by Samuel Greengard titled Shining a Light on AI Hallucinations. In it, he said, as the world becomes the numeric vectors and numerical values multiplied by an order of magnitude inside a matter, things get fudged and meanings get blurred. The modeling simplified regurgitated words based on a probability. AI hallucinations are a feature rather than a bug, said Anima Anand Brand Professor of Computing and Mathematical Sciences at the California Institute of Technology, Caltech. Models are incentivized to produce prose or text rather than a fractal text. This is why many people are looking to write in these hallucinations using retrieval augmented generation (RAG). The purpose of these is to fact check what is being generated and to make sure that what is generated is actually plausible. This is beginning to sound very similar to what we have been doing in EDA for a long time. Not that we believe the EDA tools are hallucinated, they are just not smart enough to know something wasn't going to work, or that engineers were rather too quick to find something on a Friday afternoon so they can get an early start on the weekend. Another person said to me that when they used AI to help them generate an analog circuit, it came up with a completely new architecture they had ever tried before. I'm not sure if someone else had, and the AI had been trained on that alternative architecture, but we could argue whether there was a smart decision made by a tool or hallucinations and that turned out to be a brilliant. Within the EDA, we have learned that everything had to be verified, and thus it would appear that we had a leg up on many other applications of AI. We are so accustomed to verifying everything to the maximum ability, possible in the time frame and cost budget, and we have a lot of experience far from the perfect about setting priorities on those resources. It may require some rejiggering of the verification flow, but if it could be done successfully, it could be the Lagon and Gen AI being used in the EDA developed flow. The big stone being the plug is that when these techniques have been used within a tool, they have a right and fast estimators, and functional verification is certainly not fast. As an industry, we desperately need a new abstraction for a functionality that gave us a quick sense of the validity of the decisions that are being made, and not always think of it requiring a full regression alone. We have made progress in using AI to look at the stimulus such that may provide the maximum feedback for a minimum cost. But we should also be able to ascertain the necessary abstraction to validate an idea to reasonable degree. That is something we don't know how to do today, even though it has been going on for many of the other multi-physics problems within the wider electronics domain. Digital twins and reduced order models are examples of this. In a recent story about the mixed signal systems, several people said that it was important to have a model generator that could spit out the required abstraction for verification of a defined aspect of a design. We need that for all forms of functionality, and it can be done. One example is that we have long had a single golden model for a processor from which several other problems are generated. I'm sure it takes longer to generate the master model to begin with, but that we can certain that all models are completely aligned with each other, and there is no need to verify many models that is independently created. With the right verification in place, we could also allow AI to hallucinate as much as we want, and maybe we'll be breakthrough that they would never have become about otherwise. Given that we have never questioned decisions that were made 50 years ago, AI could provide industry with much needed re-architecturing phase, and that could bring about the human performance and power gains we certainly needed.